Thinking about building the dreams of the youth? Wondering how to go about it? Pause. Think about it with intentional thought and consider where we go from here. Stay tuned and hear what Secretary-General Theodore Teddy Sweeten, man who hits the ball off the fence, got to say about how baseball is changing the narrative of the youth. Learn to stay with us. Listen to what our investors, Dom Dev Enterprise and Page Investments, and our friends at Something to Think About got to say. Ask your questions, post it on the chats, and let everybody know we're live. We'll be right back.
Something to Think About with Dale Happy Knowles.
Welcome to Something to Think About with Dale Happy Knowles. What we think, we become. What we radiate, we attract. And what we imagine, we surely can achieve. Let's change the narrative 2 for 2. And this evening we have, like you mentioned, the Secretary-General of our Baseball Federation, the Bahamas Baseball Federation. It's the Theodore, we call him Teddy, Sweeten from way back. And I said earlier that he hits the ball off the fence, but he hits the ball on a line, rocket, not these pop flies that some of these people be hitting today. So welcome, Teddy. How you doing?
Awesome, Dale. I am happy to join you guys on this. I'm happy to be a part of your audience. It's interesting. A little tired. Had a rough weekend, but it's all in good, so I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, you all had a full weekend from about Thursday till about Sunday night with the Nationals going on there at the new stadium. Not stadium, but the new park.
The stadium, yeah. Mm-hmm. And we started out, all the teams came in on Thursday, then everything kicked off Friday, and we had a very successful weekend from the standpoint of having our young people come in and play baseball. Mm-hmm. We've always said, as we talk at some of our chats, Dale, sports is down to our social ills, and I totally believe that, because if you could see how the young men walked around, moved around, showed respect back and forth to each other, to the adults, to coaches, it builds that level of harmony that you want and what you want to see our young people to be, and that all comes from a level of discipline when they're learning from the various coaches, no matter at what stage the coaching is at,
Mm-hmm.
So I truly enjoyed the weekend, and I would only say that is a lot of people has asked us, how could you plan the Nationals on the weekend of Fathers?
Yeah, but baseball have always played on Father's Day, so I don't know what they're talking about, right? Yeah.
And I said to them, I told some folks out there on Sunday, I said, this is the best thing a father can be doing right now, because 95% of the kids out there were young men and boys, playing in age groups from the age of 4 all the way up to 18. So what better place for a father to be on a Father's Day than training up young men,
Yeah. Well, it's a good thing the playoffs, the championship series was finished, because we didn't want no competition with them. The basketball TV. But Teddy, you came up playing baseball with me, well, a little bit behind, and I was playing with people 4 and 5 and 6 years older than me. Right. So, it wasn't until late in my career that I realized that was the case, because, you was always around people. But today it seemed like we only want to play within our age group, and I don't know if that's helping us or that's not. But
well, and back in our days, right? And I think it was more that we always was looking forward to the challenge of competing with the bigger fellas. All of us went out and we watched senior baseball as bad boys, and then as we grew up, we always wanted to get on the big diamond. So that was our challenge. But today, when scouts, when college, high school coaches come to look at the kids, they're comparing them to kids in their age bracket. They want to see them compete against those individuals so that they can make a better analysis on how they will want to make their selection. So
Right.
right now, for them to compete, all of their tournaments, competitions are usually in an age bracket,
Okay.
16U, 18U, 12U, and they can't compete above that. And that's
Mm.
how it's now a stipulation for all their competitions that they want to go into. So they start to settle into those only when you see them. If you have what we call organized leagues, they'll play
Mm-hmm.
in a open league, and then the age bracket doesn't matter.
Right.
And I think until we get back to that, where we have a senior league program in place, then we'll see more of an open, and then you'll see more of the younger guys. Because I think right as we were leaving out of baseball, the
Right.
Freedom Farms, the JBLNs had their teams of 14-year-olds, 16-year-olds wanting to come in to play in the senior league, and we allowed them
Right.
to. So I think that's when you'll start to see the openness back up with the age brackets.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, you, like I said, we played, and then you went off to school, and you were a 4-year starter at
Yeah,
St. Augustine.
St. Augustine,
Augustine,
yeah.
and actually somehow they voted you captain, and I don't know why they would do that, but you had some outstanding years there, and
Yeah,
got some awards to put in your trophy case and what have you. But then you switched over to um, the executive and the administrative part. We did that sometime back in the early 90s, I think it was thereabout, and so forth. And then I just bowed out and left everybody to do everything. And you all just took it and went kaboom.
well,
And,
Nearly so right. When I was off to college, I enjoyed my 4 years tremendously. Had an awesome head coach, Henry White. Gave him a lot of credit. Gave me an opportunity to excel in the game, um, and I really enjoyed it. When that career was over and I came back home, I played in I think one or two Bahama games before just making up my mind that I was not excited with the leadership.
right.
And I said to myself, um, if we want to take baseball to the next level and enjoy the benefits that we got out of it, some of us gonna have to take a step back. And so I made up my mind at the time back then, to really go into the administration, to really take an opportunity to see how we're gonna redirect the sport of baseball. We got involved with Greg Burrows Sr., who wanted to, who had the vision as well, to redirect the sport. And so all of us with like minds came together and made some tough decisions. I mean, we get tremendous flack, negativity back in the day.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
I can remember when we started back in 2003, they told us, I don't know what y'all trying to do, but y'all, ain't no young man of this country can be able to play in the major leagues. Ain't nobody can get drafted pro. Because that was our
yeah,
vision. We said the more of these kids we can get off, at the end of the day, one or two of them
right.
will break the ice, break that
Yeah.
pinnacle, and crossed over. And so today, you can see the vision, the aspirations that we had, and what we were trying to do is now unfolding right before all of our eyes. We have some very strong programs at Freedom Farm, the Junior Baseball League of Nassau, Grand Bahama, the Little League. All these organizations are very, very strong. We have a lot of our baseball players coming out of there. And now the doors have swung wide open. We had about 10, 11 scouts this weekend. We know we have a lot of work to do. We're not going to sit on our laurels, because our goal is to have at least 20, 30 scouts at all of our nationals. Now, one of the things that we have to look at is how we're going to get all of our top players home during the nationals, because a lot of them were off played in
Yeah.
various leagues, programs within the U.S., making sure they get that opportunity, whether it's to get drafted, go to
Right.
college. So the goal is now is to see what we have to do, sit down, come up with the best program process to make sure our best players at home for the Nationals, so we can put a great product on the field for other scouts to do. But it's exciting right now, Dale. I mean, after all of, I guess if you just sit back and listen to the negativities, you'd never be to this point. We
Yeah,
can look
but
back in hindsight. Yeah,
those things is what you got to build on, right? And if we put a little context to it, then baseball started in the Bahamas around in the mid 50s or thereabouts,
correct.
right? And I think it was President Edward Mitchell and his tenure all the way up to the Honorable George Mackey's tenure as president. Baseball was flourishing, and we had a good number of people playing in the professional
Correct.
arena also. And then it ran into some volatile, almost violent mischief, I should call it. Let me call it mischief. And it just fell off the table because people couldn't get along to administer, like you mentioned earlier, the leagues and keep the leagues running and so forth. But we came up with it in the crux of a lot of that. Well, not in the crux of it, but just before it. We would have been in the junior league, and then we would have had people like a Tommy Stubbs, who was the director of junior league, who would have had a good program going on with the junior leaguers, sending us off for the first time to the U.S. to play ball. And then you also had he put in place some of these stats that people could follow on some of the awards and picking up people so that people have this dream that we could actually go where some of these older guys would be talking about, oh, you're young guys, they know what you're doing. You know how we do it, and so forth. But then, then they killed the National Stadium. And baseball senior league stopped. But I believe that was a blessing in a way because it gave more focus to the focus that was already in place on the youth. And I know when we restarted senior league or rebooted it with the Nassau Baseball Association, the goal was really not to duplicate the Freedom Farms and the JBLNs out there with the youth group, but we're really and truly to get them to be like feeders, like the minor league feeds into the major leagues, into that. And that was lost when, I guess, like you say, I abandoned, not you, but people say I abandoned baseball. And so some of the vision of that was lost. But what Greg Dose had was still strong for the youth. And so, and then we still moved forward. And that was about a 20-year window that you was at either the president or the Secretary-General, or I don't know which other positions you held, but I remember those were the two main ones that I remember. So, I take my hat off to you and all the administrators out there who stuck around a long period of time whilst I was running around in Family Islands, building towers and whatever else they help people communicate. But what did that take for you to make that adjustment from being on the field to be trying to get somebody to do something that it should be done a certain way, but then doing it the way you think it should be done?
What's the most powerfulest thing in the world that usually makes men realize what their actual focus in life should be?
What's the most powerful thing?
Yeah, their sons.
Oh, the sons. Okay, yeah.
Yeah,
that's a good one. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I went out to Freedom Farm one day, and I had not put any time into my son at the time. He was about, let's say, 5, because it was Coach Pitt, so he's about 5, 6. And I said, you know what? I ain't doing nothing, but I got to put him in baseball because I like baseball. I didn't know he did. I don't know what his passion was at the time. And I put him out there and just throw him out on the field. And they put him out in left field. Ball had passed him in left field, and I think the second baseman ran out there, in right field, and the second baseman ran out there and picked up the ball and ran it back in. So one of the coaches out there said, what happened to that little boy? What is he doing out there? And what's his name? And they call his name Theodore Sweden. Oh, Lord, I saw him out there. That's the Theodore Sweden who used to play baseball back in the day. That's his son. Gee. So right from then, I had a totally different change of mindset. And that's what has driven me to this day. And I just realized at that time that we got to change the focus. One is fathers, individuals that love the game, so that our up and coming sons and sons of this soil will have that opportunity. And that's what drove me. I can tell that story because that was just like they opened my eyes up, and that was it for me. And I just took it from there. My son played Division I baseball, was able to get drafted, but he got injured, and that was it for his career. But those were the things that something has to wake you up to realize what your calling is all about. And so once I got involved from there, that was it for me. And I haven't stopped, and I've enjoyed every moment of it.
Yeah.
I've enjoyed every bit of. I put something on in my status the other day. Every year that I watch these young people move from the various family islands, I get goosebumps because I know that I have an opportunity to talk to some of these young kids, see them, and it's just a pleasure to watch them come in and compete, play ball, and just have a good time.
So would you say that one of the things that you all do from a federation point of view is to be that will help them build their dreams would be is to be that example so that they know what they see, they know what they could be?
Yeah, everything that each and one of us do is an example to a young person. And I keep and you know this, Dale. Young people learn from what they see us do. Right? If they grow up in an environment where every day they see wrong and evil doing, they can adjust to it. That's what they're gonna become. So if we're not bringing up our young men in a positive environment, giving them what is required for them to be successful, to be upstanding citizens, then we failing one as men in this country, then as a country, because we're supposed to be the one to train them up. And I think some of us are sitting back and with our heads in the sand and just hoping and praying at the end of the day that all goes well, and it's not going to happen. And so we got to get involved. So I try to be an example for them. I try to, and all of the coaches, I must give full credit. All of them don't know baseball, Dale. All of them don't know baseball. And like I tell people, you can't knock them. They're willing to be out there 24/7 to try to train our young men. But you want to know, oh, he don't know baseball. He don't know. Yeah, okay. If you know the baseball game, come out there and try to teach them. That's all it is.
Yeah, cool. Michelle Gittins, hello to you, and you shouting out to Teddy here and saying blessings and kudos to you for being a great inspiration to the youth. Keep on inspiring those youngsters out there who are trying to make their dreams come true.
Thank you,
Thumbs up,
Michelle.
praises, and high
Thank you.
fives, and all of that. So, Teddy, now you touched on it earlier. Baseball have more hard-head administrators, managers, umpires, players than they have hard balls to play with, right? At least that's what I always used to say. I remember my first time coming home, and old aunt said to me, "Oh, you off in school, eh?" Because I wonder why I didn't see you a little while. And we were playing against the Barons, and Kirk Smith was on the mound, and I think the score was something like a 2 or 3 run different. We had one man on base. So they said, but don't expect to get nothing here today. And the next, you see the pitch with Jazz get through out on the other day. He called 3 of them on me, 2 outside and 1 inside, and say, go sit down, right? But, I only say that to say those hard-headed people. So when you run in an administration, you have to deal with people and players who believe that they know better than everybody. How do you address that without upsetting the apple cart of the whole young folks out there who looking at you? Because they're watching every step that you and Greg and whoever else is out there doing, whether it's the new federation, etc.
One of the things, Dale, is, and and I have been asked this question so many times. What did we do to turn baseball around? And I said earlier, like minds came together. And when I say like minds, that didn't mean that we all agreed.
Right.
We dealt with some individuals that was hard headed as could be. We had a no nonsense initially when we started. We had a no nonsense treasurer with passed away who we honored this weekend, which was Jeff Aubrey. Jeff was the first treasurer of the BBF at the time, and Jeff was a stickler for uh, process, policies, doing it right. We had Greg Burrows, who was hard at as could be, and anybody who's ever been around Greg, but that's just the type of leader he was. And then you had myself. So all of us came together. We argued in the back room, but when we came back out, we were unified. And I think, and we realized that our mission and our goal was one for our young people, because the goal was, when we started, was get as much young men into high school and colleges, and then we'll start to see them getting drafted, because we had to reopen the door. So even though we argued, because we had a vision and because we knew what we wanted at the end of the day,
Right.
we could argue, we could fuss, we could disagree, but at the end of the day, when we walked out, we knew where we were going, and nobody could have changed that.
Right.
And so today, it's because we stuck together, because we fought it out, because we were able to argue amongst ourselves in the back room, we're still able to come out. But a lot of us sometimes, even, they're so soft-hearted. You say the wrong thing, they want to jump out and they finish. And you can't be that way. Not when you're dealing with something that everybody likes. And like I keep telling folks, I'm not the only person who loves the game of baseball.
Right.
There's a lot of us that do. We all have an aspect and an aspiration to input to it. But if we come together and we work as a team, at the end of the day, everything's going to be fine. It's going to work out. And that's what's been happening for baseball. Now, I'm not saying that we're perfect. I'm not saying that we're the best.
Yeah.
But it has been successful from that standpoint. You got the hard worker like a Jeff Francis. Man, you can look around and Jeff would be trying to fix something or do something in respect of baseball. And Jeff could be mad with you because something ain't getting right. But at the end of the day, the goal is where we're headed.
Right.
If you ever hear him, he'll tell you that's why we stick into this same plan, is because we know where we wanted to go, and that's what the vision has been all these years. And so, at the end of the day, no matter what has happened between any of the disagreements and the fussing and the back and forth, and I can tell you it goes on 24/7. We all still right there pushing along, because we're seeing the vision unfold. And I mean, the vision is unfolding where our country is overjoyed. We're getting what? I don't even call it the price, millions of dollars stadium. I leave that there.
If it costs another $100 million, I say finish it because of what it could do. That's what I say.
See, but that's what people don't understand. Imagine if we had some level of facilities for what was being trying to be done over the years.
Right.
Imagine where we'd be today, right?
Yeah.
We'd be twice as
coming to you, Jacqueline.
right. We'd be twice as much as what is happening now if we had the facilities. People don't even realize it. I had some scouts come in and they asked us, "Where are we going to the 90-foot diamond field?" I tell them we don't really have a 90-foot diamond field.
Right.
And it amazes them that we can still achieve what we're doing, but it's all because we are some really blessed people, because we have the athletic ability that can dominate the world.
Right.
You see what we are achieving in all of the other sports, and a lot of times it's just because of Bahamians' natural athletic ability to perform.
Right. Yeah, the kinetic energy and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Jacqueline Popel here is saying, Duncan, Besides, awesome show stuff. Thank you for that. Great guest. And salute to Teddy for outstanding nation builder, especially with your youth, with our youth. Keep up the great work. Sub lessons continually. We're forever grateful. I think she
Thank you.
has
Thank you,
a
sir.
nephew or a young one playing. Keep building lives, sir. Yes, and so forth.
Tell her
So
she
not.
gave me goosebumps. Says her nephew is playing baseball. She giving me goosebumps. Dale, that's what it's all about for me. Honestly, and I appreciate that. I because I'm so much involved with it, right? You get stopped by young men, and they're just hailing. You can't remember them, but they've seen what you do, or you've impacted them in some way, and they're just
Yep.
hailing, just let you know, hey, Coach Teddy, hey, and you there, you're trying to remember when you remember him from, where it was, and all you can do is hail back. And I think that's the joy of life, that you've left a meaningful impression upon young men are coming up. And I'll say this to you as you move on. One thing was said to me, because I take every young man that's a part of my son's life like my son.
Yeah.
And a few of them came to him and said, man, I wish my daddy was just like your dad. That when my son said that to me, I cried. This was years ago, but it just goes to show you that we got to be taking
Yep.
on whatever
Ground. Yeah.
responsibility is required to make sure that our young men feel one of the most important things is love. I don't know where we get this attitude that we got to be so hard with everything, but men,
Yeah.
boys need to know that we as men appreciate them, and we'll be there for them.
Right. Right. So Teddy, the director, tech chime in here. Tommy himself saying
Huh?
that Teddy reminds me of me. Boy, that's a hard one to do, to remind you of you. But
Hey, Tommy's one of them too. You know
yeah,
that. You,
I
you go in
know.
the back door, you go in the back room, you can be fighting and carrying on, right? But when you walk out, we all come out with that same like mind of where we want to go and where we
Yeah.
want to. I mean, I work with Tommy now in respect of with baseball, in respect of a lot of the advertisement, the promotion, the design, because I say to myself, you got to find the individuals, one who can do it, but also have the
Right.
passion to do it. Because
Right.
that's a big
Right.
difference. A lot of
Right.
people can do it. They ain't got no passion, so they're not going to put anything to it. Like the last design we had for the national. And I said, Tommy, I want a design that's going to permeate and people can look at it. And that's what, and he went back, come back with it, right? And everybody asking me, I had, if I didn't have about 50 people calling me, who did your design? Who did this? I
Right.
tell them who did it, but that's what it's all about, man. And
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
really enjoy it.
Right. That's awesome. So you talk about the goal, which would have been one of my questions. And as to how to get to the point, because when I ask the question is because there's a lot of people out there who want to do, but they don't really know how to get it done, and you all have done it in baseball in a big way because you went through a period, and I highlighted that period before, where there was a long period of time where baseball wasn't even being played in all intents and purposes. But we stuck with the youth, and now you're reaping the benefits as to what you sow many years ago. It's gone through the whole system, and now you have, I think, what is last I counted, something like 22 people in professional baseball, or a little more than that.
27.
27. But see, I can't even count no more, and I'm an engineer, right? I mean, y'all popping them up every day now because I can't keep up. But
27, and they got about five more
5 more in the queue.
expecting to be
Yeah.
signed in the coming months.
Right? So, and that's awesome stuff. And we have to find a way to market that
Yep.
for the Bahamas and use it. But we need the facilities to do not just in Nassau, but in the other islands so that we could expand that. So the question I had here was maybe the facilities is part of it, but what are some of the obstacles that are still needed to be overcome in order to take baseball to the next level? I mean, 27 is plenty, but we should have 60 based on
I'll put it
what
to you
we
like
had.
this. We've been able to overcome one of the obstacles. We have an administration, and I am not political. I don't care about politics. I
Right,
want a government that's going to do what it is required for sports. So if you can
right,
do it required for sports, you can get my love, right?
right.
this administration is pushing forward with making sure that we have one of the most important things, facilities.
Right.
They've already decided to move forward and invest over the next 4 to 5 years to upgrade facilities locally and in the Family Island. That was the
Okay.
plan that was given to us by the minister. Right?
Right.
That's needed. We cannot establish any high school baseball program without the facilities, because I can't play one baseball
Yeah.
game a week in one field.
Right.
In a
Right.
proper high school program, we need multiple fields playing all the time. And this is really been advised to them by Major League Baseball, because
Right.
they came in, they saw the stadium, they asked them where the additional fields are, how you going to build your programs, right? And now they realize and they understand it. That's one. That's one of the
Right.
major aspects we need. The next one is funding, right? And when I say funding, we need to figure out what is going to be our best ways. The best way that we're going to be able to fund sports. We cannot sit by and just hope we're successful, Dale. At the end of the day, yes, we're successful. I'm not knocking it. We got the Shawnee. We got the Stephen Gardners in track and field. We got the basketball stars, the Aiden, right? The Buddy Heels, right? We have success. But that's very limited to me, because we don't have the programs in place to continue to turn this over. And that takes funding, and that takes funding at the grassroots level. That's critical. That's where we got the success from. And it wasn't because of the funding from government. It was the funding from the private.
Right. I was going to say.
And then the funding into the development, the Freedom Farm, the JBLS, the Grand Bahamas. That's where our base started from, because we made the decision to go back and build from the base, the ground up, right? So now we're reaping, and we still have more coming, and that's why you just said we continue to have every year a few more guys get signed, a few more men signed. So you have that strong foundation. But they're the two main things that's gonna hold all sports back, and that is facilities and then funding. We need facilities, because you got to understand the only way you're gonna develop and get young men, especially for baseball, you gotta have them properly
repetition.
Nail on the head.
Yep.
But
So,
John said it the other night. You know that Knowles asked him. He had a slight twitch in one of his legs. He started off for about a week, and he came back and he went into about a 30 at bat slump with no hits. And they asked him what happened. He says he just lost his timing. And I keep telling people, baseball is timing. If you don't keep playing the game, you can bet your bottom dollar. That's why they got spring training. Spring training, they just say, okay, we just gonna go play some ball. That's for these guys to get their timing together, start to see the pitching, generate and move. And that's baseball all together. We played it all our lives. And when you're out of it, you're just like anybody else. You know?
Yep, that happened to me when we went to Grand Bahama to play that championship year when Buttons
You remember when
should have
Tommy
won
left us on the car park?
Huh?
You remember when Tommy left some of the team?
Yeah, but Tommy, I can't talk about my sponsor. My sponsor is the best sponsor in the world, right? But
that's a very
yeah. But you talk about the timing, and that is so. People don't understand. In the Bahamas, we don't play half the amount of games as everybody else, right? And for example, I was some of the top 5 or something like that in hitting, and I had to go away for work, so I missed all kind of practice and training. And then when I came back, then we went to Freeport, and I didn't hit a single thing in Grand Bahama. And when I say didn't even foul the ball. Not say, boy told me I got to put him on the bench. I would not said it, right? Because they realized that I just wasn't, my timing, I wasn't seeing the ball coming in, but the timing just was not there.
Correct.
And so forth. And this is in the championship, and I was like, wow, what a time for this to happen, right? Next, that was the last time I let BTC send me away in the middle of any championship. Because I said I wasn't going to embarrass myself again like that.
Right.
But, before we take the break, the leagues and the federations, just to help people understand that they're not really two of the same thing. Right. So give a little definition so people can understand what is needed. Because what I'm going to say now, I think the leagues in particular need to engage persons like the best Tommy Doe's organization that deals with promoting and managing and stuff like. Because you talked about the facilities. Yes, the government has to provide most of that because they have the land and everything. Some private sector has land that they could make available, but getting the funding, the private sector has the money, and they want to know your business plan. When you come to them for money, they don't want just put their money up and it disappears. And so people like the Tommy and the rest of those who are out there doing that type of stuff can help them and build their marketing plan and the stuff. So tell us a little bit about the difference so people can understand what they need to do in order to capitalize on this.
Right. Well, the difference between the two, the leagues are what we call the organizations that have all of the players that are involved within the sport of baseball. So you'll have the JBLN, the Freedom Farms, the leagues in Grand Bahama, Abaco. All of these leagues function. It's just like in the U.S., they function as what you'll call a club, all right? And all the clubs or the leagues become members of the governing body. If everybody can remember, and I don't have no shame about it, we had a division between the two governing bodies of the sport. So
Right.
back in the early days, from Tommy those were younger, it was the Bahamas Baseball Association that governed the sport of baseball. All of the leagues at that time, whether it was a senior league, whether it's the leagues at Bimini, whether the league in Grand Bahama, they came up under the Bahamas Baseball
Baseball
Association.
Associate, right.
Right. So during the time when we had the unrest and when we had the issues, in 2003, we formed the Bahamas Baseball Federation. The Federation was the one that rebuilt the sport of baseball to what we have today. And what happened about 4 years ago, we made an amalgamation of the two bodies. The main reason was we brought the Bahamas Baseball Association and the BBF together as one. One of the main reasons for that was because Major League Baseball said we cannot deal with two organizations in your country. You're too small.
Right.
Right? And if you all don't come together, you're not going to benefit from the international resources that are required for the development of baseball. And I can honestly tell you that is a fact. So until we made that decision to say, look here, let's put all of our differences aside, come together as one. We were like going in quicksand, trying to climb up to the top and cannot get over it.
And the youth was seeing that too, and they were getting pissed off and not interested in playing. Right.
I can tell you, Dale, I've had, when I coached, when I governed, we had teams that go off. They played in Pony baseball, or they played in Little League, right? Or they played in Babe Ruth. Then when the same guys that they played against, they won a Pony championship. Then they go to what they call a qualifier. We could go to the qualifier, so they don't see them. So they had the young men calling them. So guys, what happened to y'all? We're looking forward to see y'all in this qualifier, but we couldn't send a team to the qualifier, so they couldn't get the opportunity to represent their country. I don't care if you had a Bahamas on your shirt; didn't mean anything because you didn't go to what you call the world qualifiers or CAPABE or the organizations that govern the baseball in Latin America and in the Caribbean. So we were not a part of those. Even though we were climbing that ladder, these guys were still missing out on the greatest opportunity was to represent their country. Once we made that decision, we were able to close that door and start to climb the ladder. And with this statement, what you're talking about, all the Bahamians, please get ready. The same way you wanted to see Shawnee and Stephen them run in the front of you on your national track, you will get an opportunity to see all of the minor leaguers compete in the first time ever held in our country, which is a CAC qualifier that's going to be hosted in December in the new stadium, which will qualify the winner to go to the CAC games. Never hosted in our country before. And all of our minor leaguers will be on that national team Bahamas. So you'll all get an opportunity, get your tickets, come and watch your favorite minor leaguer play baseball. Now, Jazz and Lucius, because Jazz is in the major leagues and Lucius is on the 40-man roster. They are not eligible. through the protocols and
Yeah.
those
Well,
tournaments.
Jazz definitely wouldn't be eligible
Right.
because he don't play too many
And guess what
innings and
Philadelphia
everything.
is
Yeah.
saying? That'll be the first question they ask. So,
Yeah, yeah, but the man that they could still see him. I mean, if he comes.
oh yeah, he'll be
So
there. I could
yeah,
dress it up. Let him walk around the dugout.
yeah, but he like anyway, you know.
Oh yeah.
So if we go to break now, but just before you touch on it just now, I was gonna ask you the two leagues, the two federations join. They
Right.
become one federation. How does the youth see that? What is their response to that? Are they more excited? How did that improve their vision, their dreams?
Well, it actually didn't phase them to the least because everything still stayed functionally moving forward. The problem that they encountered was being able to compete at these
Yeah,
various
but they now
tournaments.
could do that. So I
They
mean,
now
that's as
could
a
do it.
result of the thing. So
Yeah.
what is that saying to them? What because I
Uh,
know we used to walk from Soldier Road to the stadium to play, and especially if we were able to be good enough to be able to get on the diamond under the lights, that was huge. And so to me, for them to now be able to compete in these environments where everybody's watching, because we're going from high school softball would be what, couple, maybe 100 people. You go to JFK when softball was in the day, that was what, couple hundred people. Then you go to Andre Rogers Sports Up when you had the nationals with Bimini and everybody coming to town, that was almost 2,000 people.
correct.
But when you go to the States, you could be in a stadium with 15,000 or
Yep.
more, right?
Yeah.
And
Totally
each
agree.
one of that causes a person's confidence to go up. So
Yeah.
what are they saying to you about
Well,
being able to have that opportunity?
the opportunities are now just starting to kick in, Dale. So I can't
Okay.
answer that totally
Yeah.
the question because we're starting now to formulate our national team program. So we'll be moving directly into that in 2023. But I do know one thing: what due to the amalgamation, we have 5 young men that's on subvention, so we're now
Okay.
able to support
Right.
baseball players. And what I mean by that is, what we have done is we have a selection of 5 young men who receive government subvention to help for them to further. Now, once they're drafted, then they'll come off subvention
Right.
and we'll
Right.
add another young man there because
Right.
we don't feel as a person who's drafted should be, at least from my standpoint, and a part of the governing body. You know, this is a this is an opportunity to help young men who needs it, and if you're drafted, means that whatever you do with your bonuses, that's your choice. But we
Right.
will move away
Right.
and try to help
Right.
another kid.
Yeah. But we're gonna go to the break now. But before we do, just this last one, what was the expression on the faces of the youth when they put on the uniform to go to nationals? I know it was when we didn't let nobody touch our uniform. What is the mode today? Do they care about the uniform? It has to look spick and span.
I,
What do they say? Yeah.
if you see all the kids that come out, man, I had some parents tell me Johnny laid down uniform laid out on his bed in preparation for the next day, and he slept in one spot. He didn't even roll over on his uniform. So there, that goes to tell you, the same feeling
Same
we had
thing.
back then is the same feeling they have here today. And especially when they know they go into nationals and tomorrow is the big day,
Yeah.
they treat themselves the same. They can't sleep, anxious, ready to go. And that's why I said that sports is the answer to our ills, man. We can get our
Yep.
kids involved in sports. That's a positive aspect for them to put into their lives and have a focus. That's what it's all about. How could you imagine a young kid? You don't have to tell him anything. He taking out his clothes, fixing his
Yeah.
shoes right. He done pack his bag ready. That's
Yeah.
discipline. Man, you
Yeah.
gotta sit there around with a kid. Why you do this in your room and you do that? And when a kid
Yeah.
in sports and they love what they doing, you don't got nothing to worry about.
Yeah, they ain't gotta go pick up no rock, no gun, no
No,
knife,
no,
no
no.
nothing. Yeah. All right. Well, we're gonna be right back. So you've been listening to something or watching something to think about with Dale Happy Knowles. And we're here with Theodore Teddy Sweeten off the fence. We'll be right back.
Sammy's Chicken. There's nothing like it.
Behind every scoop, flick, and savor is a smile and memory being made or reminisced. Whether you're at work, out with family on a Sunday, or have friends visiting, flavor will meet expectations in our 32-ounce container for only $10 if you're having a special event as well. Exotic flavors ranging from soursop to Guinness is definitely worthwhile.
Welcome back to Something to Think About with Dale Happy Knowles, and we're here this evening talking with Theodore Teddy Sweeten about how baseball is changing the narrative of our youth. And we were touching base a little while ago about how the youth lay out their uniforms and they take pride in all of these things. And so when we look at that, then it is changing their narrative. They are no longer just those who are involved in baseball, and I'm sure the same applies with a lot of the other sports. I was in swimming at one point in time, and yes, it was the same thing. Once they engage, their whole attitude change. And Zig Ziglar says that it's your attitude, not your aptitude, that determines your altitude. And I always thought that was a very powerful statement that he says that the intangibles, for my friends there in the sports chat, this intangible stuff that they like to, anyway. So, Teddy, when we look at this now, atmosphere for this attitude to be, what is the Federation doing specifically to build the dreams of the actual individuals who have this view that they can achieve something? Scouts are talking to them. What does the Federation do to help facilitate that?
The goal of the Federation is to bring everybody together. And when I say that is, in all sports, you have the fringes. In our sport, we have the academies now. The academies are the ones that are identifying the talent, pulling them in, and developing. You know, and I know a baseball player needs hours upon hours of development to get to the next level. So they're taking on that responsibility. The goal now then is to sync all of the entities. Academies, the leagues, Major League Baseball, schools, right? The colleges will call, the academies are working their avenue, then the leagues are. Our goal now is to make sure that we unified. We have a systematic approach to being successful and not remaining segmented.
Right.
Because what's going to happen at the end of the day, we saw it at the last Nationals, and that is that we lost a lot of the top players because they were abroad. And when that happened, because we changed the date.
Okay.
Knowing that we was on June 2nd through the 6th, or 3rd through the 6th. And we all know that was a rain-out weekend, so it's a good thing we did change it because we was in a blowout. But we still changed the date, which impacted us tremendously from the standpoint of all of the athletes who had already planned to be in town. They weren't able to come back when we had it on the 16th. So we now realize that no matter what's happening, one, we ain't changing the date. Once the date is set, the date is set. Two, we need to work along with the academies from the standpoint that they understand what we're trying to do, where we're headed, work along with them to see what support we give, and along with the membership leagues to make sure that we have a very strong product, unified product going forward. That's what it's all about. A lot of countries you'll go into, they're very segmented.
Right.
Scouts will go this way because I go and look at this thing, come back out. One of the things that I am excited that we were able to do when we first started, and I want a lot of the parents out there who are listening to understand, even if your son signs at the age of 16, what the academies realize, because they go into the Dominican Republic to trade, a lot of the Dominican Republic players sign at 16, they're released at 18, and they basically do not have a high school education. So they're disadvantaged. Plus, they don't sign in with, when they sign a college clause in there, which allows them to still go back to college. Our good friend, son did that. BJ Murray. Not BJ. Byron.
I know what you mean, Byron.
Byron Murray. Byron got drafted, signed, but he also had a college clause in his contract. So when he was released, he went back to college, finished his college degree, got his college education. I can call 4 or 5 of our players that did the same. They go back to college. One of them is Dominic, who's now the scout for the Boston Red Sox. Dominic Cole. Got released, went back to college, finished his college education, and now still want to work in baseball, so he became a scout. What I say to that, Dale, is that what we wanted to do is to coordinate that. A lot of people see the big picture. The big picture is I get this lump sum of money, but we got to understand that there must be a future involved. So if you don't look at the future and you have this 16-year-old just finishing high school but don't have a college degree, released from baseball, right? Didn't go to college, so you got another kid walking around back in your country who doesn't have that college education to try to help him to benefit from that. So our goal was to make sure that that was in place. And all of the players who signed today have the college degree. What happens with that is, so parents will understand, you don't touch that money. The only time you can touch that is if your son is released and then you want to send him to college. That funds is then released to the college of your choice for him to finish off his education. So that's how powerful it is. And that's just working together to make sure where you see things that aren't the best process in other countries, but you know what you want for your own people. So you make sure that that's in place. So at the end of the day, they have the choice, and that's what's important with it.
Yes. And so you talk about those things because you also have, we talked about the 30-odd people who could be in professional sports now, but not all of them are also on the field because we had a baseball player who is now the manager of a major league team. Say a little bit about that transition.
That was a big accomplishment in 2021, and that's one of our former major league players, Antoine Richardson, who is now a coach, first base coach for the San Francisco Giants. And I think that it's amazing that we've been having first in this generation. That's the first behemoth to ever coach in a major league club. So it is awesome. And honestly, it gives us a better opportunity as well as we talk, because anytime you mention Antoine's name in Major League Baseball, when you're speaking with them, they know exactly what you're talking about. He has made a mark and a name for himself, and it speaks for itself. So we are happy for it. We're encouraged by it, but it's awesome to see him in the position that he's in, and he's leading the way off the diamond between the white lines and making sure it all happens. I think, Dale, honestly, and I'll say this, one of the major mistakes that we made back when Andre, Jason Moxie, the Tony Currys, all of them who played professional baseball, what we didn't do is we didn't remain inside the system. They all came out and then try to work back in. What the Dominican Republic did, Andre Rogers went into the major leagues before any Dominicans went in. What happened, though, is when the Dominicans went in, they stayed. They made the decision that even when I'm finished or even if I'm released, I'm going to get on one of those ball clubs. I'm going to become a part of the organization. I'm going to be intimately involved. And so what they did was they built their farm systems back home. And that's what we made the mistake in, because everybody, as you indicated, back in the 60s and 70s that played professionally, they all came back out the system. We had nobody that stayed there that would have been able to drive from the inside. But now we're realizing it. We're realizing that it's not just the players, it's all of the other resources around Major League Baseball, around professional baseball, that needs those arms in there to continue to move that product forward.
Right. You know, and that's a big thing, because, you know, sometimes we feel that, okay, if we are an athlete and if we're not on top of the game, they're absolutely superstar, then we tend to think that, oh, that person dead or whatever and stuff like that, right? And I give you a prime example. I mean, as I was at the U and I got hurt, Coach Frazier, who was multiple World Series champion coach, saw something and he decided that I needed to sit next to him in the dugout and learn management. I learned more about management from him than I learned in the classroom.
Correct.
Right? And even at BTC when I came back. But, you know, he wanted me to come back to play, to manage for grad school. But I was like, oh boy, I done been off for so long now. I needed to go home and stuff like that.
Go back home, but
yeah, but I had 3 jobs waiting for me back home, so it's slightly different, right? I'm not saying that to say that the opportunities are there. So even if your career is getting to the point where you can't physically do the ball part, there's other aspects of the system that you could still be involved in. And Anton, I wanted to highlight that because that's significant that they picked up that he had those skills, and they now have him be in the in San Francisco still, right? Where is that? So, in building the dreams now, which is important for you, because I always say that the dreams is what causes. It's like if you have candy and the ants walking behind you, right? The candy is the ant, candy is the dream, and the ant is the player. They can follow the sweetness and they want to get to it. So the dream is what you're always trying to get to. So what do we need to do now to cause these athletes to be able to capitalize on opportunities? Because the federations and the leagues are creating these opportunities, and we have some playing baseball, but there's so much more who has the physical talent. In the Bahamas, I always say we have more kinetic talent than anybody else in the world. That's the physical part of the game. We might not have all of the structural, the intellectual part, or those things as to how they go and do film study and all that. We mightn't have that mastered yet. And some of us might do it and some of us might not do it. But what is missing out of our system that can help the youth become even better? Is it habits or what is it?
The willingness to go back into the inner city.
That can't be a issue, man, Tommy. Because I'm Teddy, because
it's
we grew up. That's where we grew up playing.
Yeah, you grow up. We've been around it. Today, we have to develop and go back. We gotta go back in the inner city. Where do you think a Jazz came from?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. If you speak with Jazz, Grammy, his parents, all of them, we gotta go back. We gotta be willing, and that's why I like Minister Mario Bole, and that's because all of his players came from the inner city. Mm-hmm. And he coached in the government school system, so he knows what the benefits are. And his program is if you can develop a program that is going to go back and reach into the inner city, we will subsist you in funding that program. So that's going to be one of my goals for next year as I work along with the association. And for us to go now and see how we can develop a proper program to pull as much of these young men into baseball. Get them started, get them going, and not be afraid. And even if we have to put in the individuals there to assist us with it, that has to be a goal for us. So I think that's where we are. All sports need to be focused. Our greatest athletes are sitting in those inner cities, are sitting in the inner city. And I'm not knocking anything else. It's just that that's where our raw talent is.
Yeah,
And if
that's
we
true.
don't want to face that, we'd be in trouble. That's where the raw talent lies.
Yeah. No, and my mom always say I only used to pay attention to two things, right? Which was the girls and my baseball bat, right, and glove. Like, she said I was a bathe with it and everything. But then that's why they sent me to Canada, because I wasn't paying attention to school.
And that's why I
But
said my son done boarding school too.
anyway, you all mean parents. You should have let me go play baseball. But anyway, so when we look at all of this, that we have this opportunity, new stadiums coming, more facilities, the private sectors can get involved bigger because they see the trust factor and they see what their money is going to turn around with. We just need to package it a little better. The actual athlete. I'm a person, for example, that I don't even watch regular TV no more, or listen to the radio all day long and stuff like that when I'm in the car. Whatever. If I'm watching TV, it's watching YouTube, and I'm watching something that's going to always be uplifting me or building me up, or something that keeps me in the right mindset. What would be your advice to the youth today, based on what you've seen happen over the last 20 years and recently, to help them funnel their thought process so they could then translate that on the field to be even more successful?
The toughest thing with this generation, Dale, and we all know it, and that is because of the overzealous of the internet, social media, and it is taking the mindset of our young people to a different level, because the things that excited us back in the day, that doesn't even move them in any direction. So we have to figure out what are we going to do to pull them away from this whole system environment that they're gravitating to, that's pulling all their attention. And I gave you the illustration in respect of one of the kids, and it's, you have to get them involved in the extracurricular activities that they love.
Right.
And if they're like what they're doing, and you're not forcing them to do it. And this is something I speak with a lot of parents with. Allow them to, they'll tell you really what they want to do. Do not let them tell you they don't want to do anything.
Right.
But they will gravitate to the sport that really brings out a lot for them, and you'll see that they develop. But, sometimes what we do is we don't allow them to get into the world outside of just sitting behind these computers, these keypads and these pods, because they're not developing. You just gave a good illustration from what you do. A lot of the stuff that they're doing on these things don't do any benefit for them from an intellectual standpoint, right?
Right.
So it's actually training them not to be the type of individual that you would love them to be, right? And so then sometimes I had some kids when I used to be, you almost have to remold them.
Right.
You got to redirect them to understand what it's all about. And you and I work in the corporate world, right? You get young people that come in and you sit there and you're trying to figure out what went wrong, right? And that's because they're so wrapped up in things that is not beneficial for their growth. And then when they hit in environments that is required for them to be stronger, be the adults that they need to be, they're very challenged. So for me, I'm just saying with that, Dale, is that it's something that we really got to look at. We got to figure out what is going to be the best way for us to do it, and to get it done.
Right. Well, yeah. Well, these things. So Rachel, Duncan is saying awesome. Reach back to and give back. To whom much is given, much is required. Sports is the key around social ills. Most definitely. I've been saying it for about 30, 40 years now.
I totally agree with that. much
Like
is
I
given,
say, if it can cost us $100 million to finish the stadium,
they don't
finish
finish
it.
it. I totally agree
Okay.
with you there.
Okay.
If what so much has been given, you and I, we have to give back. That's all I can
Yep.
tell them. We have to
Yep.
get back. It'd be for me. It'll almost be like a sin if I didn't,
Yeah.
because I benefited from all of us benefited our generation from
Yep.
our fathers bringing us up through baseball, learning the sport, and we learn all aspects now. And I don't want people to sit there and believe that we were just cuddled, right?
Right.
We saw the
Right.
bad in life. We saw the good. We saw if you get involved with these things where you can be headed, because our father
Yep.
showed us it. So
Yep.
this is the part of growing up, and this is the part you can't allow no one else to tell your kids these things. You're the
No.
adult, you're the father.
Yeah.
You have to show them.
Right.
You have to teach them that this isn't the right way to go. Because if you're going to allow somebody else to do it, you're in trouble.
Yeah. Well. Yeah. Whenever you let other people take control of your life, then you follow their roadmap and not
Correct.
your own. Right. Cool. So as we look at this last set of things here now, we have this environment where you have the leagues, you have the federations, you now have the academies, as you mentioned, and so forth. You can have the best in the Tommies and the Rose out there doing the marketing and the building the business plans and stuff like that. And you mentioned the part with the social media. My suggestion is that when we look at giving back, a lot of people think that giving back means you have to be a coach. You could be a statistician. You could be somebody who could in HR who come and provide that service to the table, because HR and social persons can be able to help with this void that you speak of a little bit, and that disconnection and why they running. Everybody likes the nice things and things that make them excited. And so, and especially youth, right? If all the fans is on social media, then fine. But we could get to put the baseball in social media and let that be the conversation versus some of the other stuff. And there's a way to do that. And so we just need to understand that everybody can't be a coach and everybody isn't equipped to be a coach, but everybody can give back in some which way or form. But somehow in the Bahamas, we tend to think that for you to give back, you have to come and stand up on the field for 9, 10 hours and hit ground balls to somebody or teach them how to pitch or whatever stuff. What's your thoughts on that before we close?
But the thing is that we all have to learn to understand where our place is and what best we can contribute to
Right.
the success of any program, or any project that you're working on. And that's from a business standpoint. Everybody
Right.
can lead. A leader is an individual who's going to be able to set out a vision and try to get those to follow that vision. And that's what it's all about. So you have to see exactly where you fit in there and then make sure you drive it, right?
Right.
I didn't want to do this. I could be honest with you, Dale. Most of us sit down as young men, man, I want to go enjoy life. I want to do everything else. I don't give all my time on the free time. It's just like I'm saying to you. I'm now in the preparation for us to go away again for the weekend, right?
Right.
And it's a complexity of balancing my paid job and trying to make sure that we're straight to do what else we're going to do. So we got to find out what our niche is. We got to figure out what is best for us, and then we got to get satisfied with that and do the best at it. Too many of us want to lead and we can't lead. Too many of us want to be out there, and we shouldn't. We should be the ones in the back making sure things work. And I'll use the illustration while I was out on the park this weekend. And one of the ladies, she had on one of the team shirts, and she said, only thing I do is I work from the back end. I'm making sure that the kids are ready, the kids ready to go on the field and go with the coaches. See, there's always some aspect that you can bring to the table to make sure that that team or that organization is successful.
Right.
We don't always got to be out on top. And I think that's one of the major, sometimes that's a major hindrance to us trying to be successful.
Yeah, and that applies across board, all sports and all operations,
You're
whether it's
totally
sports or
correct.
not.
Even
Because,
work.
man,
Just like work.
in baseball is the prime example. Baseball have 9 positions on the field. Not one of them are duplicates, right? So people think, but everybody gets the bat. And
Everybody, yeah.
everybody has the opportunity. Cool. Daddy, it's been awesome. And like having this conversation
I've
remind
enjoyed
me
it.
of some things that I almost thought I forget. But before we go, what would you like to say to everybody out there?
All I can say, we live in the most beautiful country in the world.
Yeah.
242 to the world. I mean, we have our issues, we have our problems, but I wouldn't want to live nowhere else from the standpoint of our people, our love, our support. Let us not lose that. Let us not forget what God has blessed us with, has given us an opportunity to flourish. And let us do the best that we can do to be significant contributors to the success of this country. And let us stop not always looking at the negative, man. We have a tendency, we sit there, we beat up the negative all the time. But there's some positive things going on. Get involved, get involved, get involved. We need everybody out there because our young people need us tremendously.
Yes. Awesome. So, and much more you could say on top of that. That's a sermon by itself. And that should be the preacher man who said, come back for the second time.
I can preach, but I love my Lord, so I can leave it there.
So, thank you kindly, Teddy. Thank you, everybody out there in social media. Thank you, Madam Producer. We'll be back here next week. Be safe, be strong, get involved. Get involved. Off the off. Right.
Get involved. Appreciate that.
One love.
One love, buddy.
Yes.
Enjoyed the show? Then subscribe to us for more educational and inspirational content. Ring the bell so you never miss a show. Let's change the narrative, 242.